G'day all, Ben here, East West. Going to have a look at uranium this week. I was sort of thinking as the week progressed this week, what am I going to talk about with uranium? But something really interesting happened on Friday, something that might have just changed some of my ideas. So let's just jump in and have a look at some of these names, because hopefully what I'm going to show you will get you pretty excited about the upside. So let's have a look. So just going to start off here with CCJ, and I had been, people who've been watching my videos for a while know that I've been thinking about the longer term trading range before we go up. But I think the way the things are just starting to develop now, I'm just sort of moving away from that idea a little bit. I think we've just on the verge here of having a very good chance of a breakout. Now I'll explain why in a moment, but this was just where we'd sat. But we've just done this little inside range, and what we can see here is this little inside range that we've sort of just slowly started to build. Again, we got another little hold here, which is going to equate to about the 50%. It's just like it's almost the range is starting to tighten up on us. But what's happened here on Friday has really got my interest. So I'm just going to clean this chart up a bit. I'm just going to remove some of these lines that I had been working off. Now, the one thing we had been working on here was the cup and handle idea. Now, I did sort of say, that maybe it's not quite as likely to occur, but still very much alive. We just had this dip here at the bottom of what would be the handle below the 50% mark, which is not a disqualifier, but maybe just reduces the odds. However, the way that this is beginning to shape up for me, I'm starting to think that that there's still some validity here. So where we just think about the cup and handle itself, like what are we talking about in terms of a trade? So we're thinking about the measured move. So the height of this cup, okay, from the breakout level would be, just got to make sure we're exactly on the top there. So we're talking about, this is just how the trade generally is set up. Okay, so you're talking about $66.40. That would be the target if you were going to trade this cup and handle pattern. Okay, and then your stop would be below this point. All right. So one of the reasons we don't want to see the cup or the handle go so low is it's reducing the risk reward on this, which is about 1.7 to 1. So it's not perfect by any means. If this was shallower, of course, if this hadn't come down as much, then the risk reward starts going back up. So if you can get it 2 to 1, it's probably something like that. It's a lot better. But nonetheless, this still looks, relatively valid. I think it's the way this is starting to shape up. It looks okay. So we'll just go in and just check out one or two other things, and then I'll zoom in and show you what's really caught my eye here. Yeah, there's just a couple of things we just need to be wary of as we head into next week. So we've got this measured move set up. Okay, so the target is here, and this represents basically the all-time high back in 2007. Okay, so what I would say is just in this little zone between sort of 55 and 56, I just think the market might bog there a little bit, but we get through there, and then on we go. So this is kind of setting up quite nicely just in the short term like this. And just very quickly, I've just switched the chart here into Canadian dollars, because there's a broker profit target from RBC up here at $75 Canadian, which would overlap that profit target, the measured move profit target. So just for a few of those reasons, and I think a lot of the other brokers were sort of saying around this sort of Canadian, around this $75 area is a price target for the stock. So it just to me looks like this is going to get tested out pretty soon. In fact, this is the story here. RBC Capital price target up to $75 Canadian. So that is what that is all about. Okay, so that's all great, but I just think Friday, just something happened on Friday that hasn't happened yet, and it's made me change a lot of my thinking on this. So let's really drill down into the chart and see what's going on. So the first thing I want to do is to just draw your attention to this level. Okay, that I'm just going to highlight that because it's important. So just for reference, like these were the old tops, and then I think I posted at the time that there was an attempted breakout here that failed quite badly. But this remained quite an interesting peak, and what's happened here is 1, 2, 3. Now, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch the chart to TradingView have only brought this out recently, but I mean, obviously it's been around for a long time. But I'm going to bring in the market profile of this chart. And actually, just before I do that, I'll just mark this off. So this was the old peak there, and this was the failed breakout, okay? Because we just want to have a look at what's happened around this area. Okay, so this might look a little bit confusing, but just bear with me. I'm not a guru on this by any means, but it's pretty simple. It's just basically looking at time and price. Time and volume. So what we can see here is the market's open here. Okay, A is like the first time slot. It's pushed up here to B, but it hasn't done much volume. So this is the volume profile of the day. Okay, so we did a bit up here, but what's really happened here is that this is the value area high, and this is the value area low, and this is the point of control. So you can see what's happened here. We've pushed up. We've spent a little bit of time up here, but the sellers were, above this level, there's nothing, right? But here, the sellers are really happy to step up to the plate. So we're talking about this sort of, above $52, there's just sellers galore. And as the day wore on, they pushed it all the way back down. There was an attempt here. This is where the market spent most of its time, around this just around this sort of $50.50 mark, where it did a bit of volume. Okay, not as much as it did up here, but this is the point of control of the day, and then we've slopped off and closed below the low value area to close right back down here. Okay, and remember, this is the old peak. All right. Okay, so this is the day of the failed breakout. Oh, it's because of the way it's set. So it's might be a bit hard. This is we opened above the level, and straight away we were driven down on no volume. The sellers are just looking for any buyers to unload on. Okay, so they pushed it. Remember, that's the level. They pushed it right back down. Okay, and all the volume was done down here, where the market was held basically all day long. So this just rejected very, very quickly. Okay, because if you look at it, I can't remember the exact time slots, but like A represents sort of 9:30 to might be 8:30 to 9. B's 9 to 9:30, C all the way through to the close. Actually look it back up again, but you get the point, right? There's just nothing going on up here. Like, we open here and the sellers are just don't buy more, come get more. So they just push it right back down, and the point of control, everything, it's just closed right down here on the thick volume. Now look at Friday. It's almost the exact opposite, right? We have opened and there's just been no sellers, and we have exploded above that really important key pivot level. Okay, and we spent all day up there, and we did tons of volume up there, right? And relatively speaking to the day, all the volume got done above that zone. Okay, that's a really big development for me. Okay, because that's the first time that's happened. So what it's saying to me is that the buyers have had enough gumption through the whole day to take all the supply and hold it there, and we've closed above it. It's a big development. Okay. This is the first time we've seen the bulls basically meet the bears above the key level. Okay, so there's been enough demand there to soak up all the supply. So the question now becomes, who wins from here? Because there is still a danger. Okay, there is still the danger that there's still more supply here, and the demand runs out. Okay, but that's quite a bullish signal to me, I would have thought. So let's just turn this off, because it's a little bit, I can understand it's a little bit confusing. So I just think early next week, super important. I mean, it was a big day, right? We were up nearly 6.5%. It was a big day, but the fact that we closed above here on good volume, and all the volume got done at the top, there is definitely now demand above this level, whereas before we haven't seen that. Okay, the charts were telling you that there has been no buyers above here. All of a sudden there are. Okay, so there is demand here. It's a new area of demand. So what you want to see now, of course, is that demand to overwhelm the remaining supply that we've seen plenty of through here, and then we can start pushing on. I mean, how high do we go? I don't know. I mean, you've got those sort of different trade ideas, the cup and handle, the measured moves. You've got all that sort of stuff. But right now, I mean, I don't know how high it goes initially. I would just trend this up now, because now we've got the makings of that inside little trend. We've gone high. We've had a higher high, and we've held a higher low. So, really, what you want to see from here is just that price structure develop. So you just want the up, the retracement, the up, the retracement, you just want to see it do that, okay? And if we do that, then we're away. Actually, what would be better, even if it just hit that, if it came back and sort of touched into here again, and then all of a sudden there was just a fresh bout of demand in here, like more buyers just waiting to buy more, that would be perfect. That's what you want to see. Okay, that would be how you would hope that it would pan out. But like I said, because of the volume that got done out here, I'm starting to feel much more bullish that perhaps my ideas, and I'll change my idea. But, I'm definitely now on the red alert for the breakout, for the real good breakout push because of that. I mean, like I said, still a chance that it could fail. But just the way that it behaved on Friday makes me think that it's likely to push on next week. So let's see. We don't count our chickens before they hatch, because, like I said, very easily could come, and it could come all the way back down and reignite that idea that I had, which I'm starting to lean away from. Okay, because as the market gives me new information, I think Friday it gave me new information, changed my mind. I'll just jump over here to UR8. It's the same thing, all right? I don't have to go over this too deeply because it's the same sort of setup. So we knew on the weekly we had this big cup and handle, but the handle here is much better form because we didn't get below that 50. And we know we just had a little wedge going in here. And now this is the first time we've broken what would be the upside of the upside here of what would be the cup, okay, if it was going to play it as a cup and handle. So there might be just some debate. I'm not really 100% sure what the answer is here, but you could take the measured move off the bottom here. But I'd probably more likely try to shoot for that. Okay, I'd probably shoot up. So we're talking about $47.50 would represent the measured move target of this cup and handle scenario if it was going to play that way. Remember, just because there's a pattern here that looks good, there's no guarantee. I mean, for all we know, that these things fail too. Just because it sets up nicely doesn't mean it's not going to just shit its pants, because it does happen. There's no guarantees. But like this one, because of the fact that the handle didn't go down as far, this has got a better 2.5 to 1 risk reward ratio if you're going to target that high. Because I don't know if it can get that high. I mean, only time can tell, right? But you just got to, how else are you going to sort of structure up this? Where's your target? You've got to find some way of making sense of this to try to turn it into some sort of trade. And just buying and hoping, well, I mean, you can do it, and then you can just monitor how price is developing. But this way it just gives you a little bit of structure, and you know you're on the right track when you're trying to make more than what you're risking. Okay, so this was just the basic general structure. I think we're looking at this as a bit of a wedge building in here, maybe. And this is just a little bit of nice 101. I mean, look, I'm going to talk about this with the Red Devil in a video very soon, but trend lines are subjective, right? Like, when do they break? Well, what I like here is just the simple swing pattern, right? And we got above, this sort of trendish line, and then we consolidated above it. Okay, and now what's happened? Okay, so this is consolidated nicely, and now it's just pushing above its level. Now let's look at this in the market profile sense that we did with CCJ. Okay, so same deal. This is the original peak. Okay, this is where we got to the first time at $32.60. All right, same thing, rejection away. Okay, and this is the next. So this is around the start of May, another rejection at that top. Double top, not much volume there. Plenty of sellers, no buyers. Down we come. Okay, rejected again. This is Friday. Okay, opened at the lows to push all the way up. And all the volume got done above the level. Okay, and it stayed up there all day, and it closed up there. Okay, so that is, like I said, it's the same thing. It's a very bullish signal that there is demand now above the level. That's what you read there. That we pushed above that level, and the buyers were there all day and held the market above there all day on the best volume. Okay, it's bullish. Okay, now let's finish up with everyone's favorite dog, energy fuels. Okay, so this one has obviously been very problematic for a very long time and just has not danced to the same tune as the others for various reasons. Of course, there's the rare earth component, etc., etc. But I'm not really worried about the ins and outs. I'm just worried about what price is doing. So just reminding you here on the big view that this is the COVID low and this was the pumping high, right? And then what have we done? Well, a few times now. This is the third time. We had a little break here, but we've more or less held the retracement zone, and now we're just starting to push away from it, from this god-awful downtrend that's basically been going for well, 9 months. It's been a pretty horrible time for anyone who's been holding this stock, especially watching what the other sort of uranium-based stocks have been doing. But nonetheless, something's just happened here in regards to this horrible shit downtrend that might give us a bit of optimism, or at least put it back on the radar. Now, hopefully you can see this all right, but I've pointed this out in other videos. So what we can do here is, when we don't have a lot of clue, I mean, we just, all we can really see, the only thing that's concrete, right, is that we've got this swing pattern of lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, okay? That's all we can deal with. That's what we've got. But what I'm just looking at here, okay, the first thing I just look at, I'm just looking at this RSI. So this is the last cycle of downswing, okay, in the RSI. Now, we've broken back above through this high. Usually in a bearish market, the RSI will usually stay, at or sort of below 60. And that just means that all it really means is that there's just more pressure on the selling bars than the buying bars. Okay, but this time around, this has had good momentum going up, and we've broken through that 60 level now, so we're sort of above it. That would suggest to me that the market's ready to turn bullish. Now, coupled with that is I just look at the length of these swings, right? So what's important here, okay, so you can see here, this was the last downswing, which is represented here, okay? So it went for 29 trading days, and it fell 29.6% from one pivot to the next, okay? And now the subsequent upswing, this one, went for 14 days and only rallied 14 trading days and only rallied for 20.24%. So even though the indicator hasn't painted yet, this will end up being the pivot low, okay? So what we want to do is figure out how big that last downward movement was. So when you work it out, this movement, I'm very confident that will be the pivot, okay? So this movement was only 18 trading days, okay, 18 bars. It says 26 days, that's 26 calendar days. 18 trading bars and fell 25.95%. So what that means is that this was bigger in duration and size than this. So we've got a smaller downswing developing, okay? Now what we've got to do is take the other side as well. Now this green box here represents the last, I'll get rid of that, represents the size of the last upswing, which we can see here went for 14 days and rallied 20.24%. So I think this is actually day 14, but we're yet to put in a pivot high. Okay, so what it means to me is that we're certainly longer. Okay, so this rally is bigger than the last rally on the swing pattern. Okay, so it's bigger, but the time, so it's going to be longer and stronger. Okay, so it's going to have more time and more gumption to go through. Okay, so that is quite a bullish sign coming off the bottom, and then of course we've got to beat the pivot. I mean that goes without saying. Okay, so we need to do that, because then what we want to see, of course, is a higher high, a higher low, a higher high, and all of a sudden, what do we got? We got an uptrend. Okay. So just looking at that, I mean, that's quite an exciting development, considering how bad this has been for so long. There just has been very little to get excited about this. It just really, even the earnings, I mean, it's shrugged those off. But maybe people are just looking at the sector and, they've looked at all those other names. And obviously it's been a great Friday and a week to close off for a lot of those names. And they're looking at the beaten down ones, and there's not one that's been beaten down further than this. So very simply, what becomes the next point? I mean, and we don't know this is the top, of course, but we start to look at this, right? We just want to see where it peaks out. I mean, what would be nice if it peaked out above here, okay? And then you'd be looking for that trade. That would be how I would enter it personally. But even now, even if this proved to be the top, I would still probably be looking for. I'd be looking for that at least, I think, okay? And even if I got that, I would probably only take partials, because I would be feeling pretty confident the market was on a bigger upswing, okay? And that we're a good chance, okay? There's no guarantees, of course, but we're a good chance to break out of this trend channel and start to go higher, okay? So that would be, and then, maybe we're in a position to come in and start taking on these tops around $9. Not there yet, but I would just read this as good early signs, okay? It's something to put on the radar, okay? So, maybe this peaks out here and maybe it starts to slot back down, but definitely it's becoming worth a look, I think, in energy fuels. So look, I'll leave it there for that week. For the week, hopefully that was a little bit helpful for you, gave you a few ideas. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, all the usual stuff, and I'll see you next week. Bye for now.